So today let us discuss about the form data collection and validation using JavaScript. Okay. So basically we can access the form data by using the DOM. So which we had discussed earlier about this. So that is a document object dot either by the get element by ID method or get element by class name or get elements by tag name or class name like that. Um, basically input elements will hold some values. A form which will hold a value, isn't it? A text field stores a text. A drop down stores some list of options, and apart from that, it will just store the whatever the option has been selected by the user. Otherwise, it will store the default value which is going to be empty, or the value which is going to be specified by the user by default. And the radio buttons checkboxes, they stores actually whatever the option selected by the user. Okay, so the property is a value here. So this property actually access which will return or which will sets value to an input element basically. So value is equal to which sets a value. If we don't provide equal to just a value you are using, that is just gets the value of the input element. But you need to access the input element either by the ID or by using the form also, like document dot. So forms of 0, that means the first form. If you have multiple forms, okay, so the 0 is the first form. That means the first form tag, and 1 would be the second form tag, third form tag, fourth form tag, like that. Okay. So if you're trying to access the first form elements, make it 0, forms of 0. This is form object. Okay. So form is a child object to the document, where document is a parent and form is a child. Forms of 0. Here you can access the name. You can give the name of that input element. The name of the input. Okay. Then followed by dot and value. So like this also we can access the form input elements. So why we need to access the input elements means just because of um, for collecting the data and validating the data. So what are the advantages of client-side validations? So client-side validations will just reduces the burden at the server side. So why should we left everything to the server? Because hitting the server, really it's a uh, like it will a time taking process, hitting the server for every request, for every response. Even for simple validation, if you are trying to hit a server, which would be more cost effective when compared to the time. So according respective to the time, it is very cost effective for hitting to the server for every simple validations also. So that's why the basic validations can be better. We can validate at the client side by using JavaScript. Then better we can submit it to the server for further validations process or for storing the information. Okay. Most of the applications not only just depends on the JavaScript validation. I mean, not only at the client side validation, but also server side validations would be there. But the basic validations to be performed at client side, and advanced validations we can perform at server side. So advanced validation in the sense checking whether the username is a valid username or not, password is a valid password or not. So they can be done only at the server side, because by using JavaScript we cannot write SQLs, as SQLs used to interact with the database. JavaScript cannot interact with the database. Okay, JavaScript cannot. By using JavaScript we cannot write an SQL query. But by using the backend logic, any programming language like Java, PHP, .NET, Ruby, so these languages can write SQLs. Okay, they can interact with the database directly, database engine. But the lightweight programming language like JavaScript, okay, not only just JavaScript, any framework in JavaScript cannot write the SQL. We cannot write SQLs using JavaScript, as SQL parsers are not available in the JavaScript engine. But if you can see in the Java, there is a package, java.sql package. That SQL package which enables you to write the queries to the database. Okay. So a programming language like a higher end programming language like a Java can interact with the database, but JavaScript cannot do that. It will not do that. Okay. So JavaScript should send a request to the server logic. The server logic was made up of some Java code. Then the Java code is going to interact with the database. This is what exactly happened toward the web application. Okay. So the database like checking for username, passwords, it will be done by the backend. Okay. And so we cannot do that. But the front end can do some little bit basic validation like asking for only numbers, asking for only characters, and avoiding special characters. Okay. And if user don't provide any data, the request should not be sent to the server, like empty field validations, specific character validations. These things we can ensure at the client side as a part of JavaScript. Okay. Anyways, first of all, let us see how to collect the data from the JavaScript by using JavaScript. Then we'll go for the validation. So once if we are able to collect the data, then validation would not be a difficult task for you. So here we'll be seeing some more events also. That is, we'll see key events as well as mouse events. Then we'll also discuss about some input events are there. Of course, they are the part of the mouse events, but exclusively they are like some on change event is there. On change event. Okay, let us see this type of events. We'll see all the key events, mouse events, and the on change event, and we'll collect the data from the form. Okay. So first of all, did you understand the last class? We'll do an example now. That is, I'm going to create a form with multiple elements. Okay. So what are the attributes for form type? Basically method. If you like to send a get request, let it be, I think no need to provide any method also, because by default, the form method is get method. If you would like to give the post, then you should write the method post. Then action. So once after user click the submit button, where the request should go. So you need to provide the URL here for the action. Okay. So this would be the action page, which is locating at the server side. So that would be your business logic at the back end, which will takes the input, then it sends a request to the server. So once it sends a request to the server passes the user request. Then it takes input fields, all the parameters which has been sent by the user. So once after receiving those parameters, the server side there will be a logic for writing the information to the database. Okay. So that SQL logic, the business logic will be written, the model logic will be written by the backend developers. As a front-end developers, we need to send the request only. That's not our responsibility. Then after the action method, everything here, so let it be. There is an event here. I'll discuss about that event later. So script, okay, function, collect. Just creating a function here. Function name was collect. Let me create a table format here, td. Here input type is equal to text. You should provide a name attribute for every input element, because the name attribute value is going to be the index while when you're sending as a parameter to the URL. So it will be added like a URL parameter. The name will be added like URL parameter, where your values are going to be identified by this name value only. Okay. So user full name. Okay. And better to provide some name for this form also, so that you can uniquely recognize it. Either name or ID, anything is fine. You already know how to access with ID, get element by ID, but let us see how to access with a name. Okay, I'm just naming it as like F1. That means just a form one. Okay, let me close the TR. So if I put entire the form elements in a table tag, it will be well organized and look and feel would be very good. Okay, so every row should contain multiple table definitions or data, name, uh, qualification. So for qualification, better to provide a drop down list. Select name is equal to user underscore qualify. Let us provide the option. I'll give the first option as empty, which will show a default message. Choose a qualification. Okay, then second option. So this time I'll go with the engineering, pharmacy. Okay, like this. So we have a text field and a drop down, right? Let me give gender. For this gender, I'll go with the radio button. And you know that the radio button should be added to the same name group. So where it renders male, the first one, as bracket. Then let's go with the second one, which is female. But for both of them, we have to provide a value like M represents a male, value F female. Okay, fine. And so once so why I'm not giving the password field means same as like how you're accessing the text field data, the same we can access the password fields also. The text areas are also the same. So drop down is our radio button server. Okay, now I should go for a button. Input type is equal to submit. A button, simple button. Simple button is also okay. Input type equal to button. On click. So I'm writing event on click here. When I click on the button, something is going to be happen. So it calls the collect. So the callback function when user presses on click, what's the callback function? Collect is a function. So that this function will be invoked when user presses the button. Show data. Okay. So how would you like to show the data? On the console is also fine, or else if you'd like to show it on a separate table, you can do that one also. So first of all, let me show you the data on the console. Here I'm going to create a name variable and a qualification variable, then gender variable. 3 variables for 3 input elements. Let me access the first one, document dot. So here forms of, this is a form object. Okay, so forms of what I can give here means the name of the form. What is the name of the form? F1. You know, I can give the F1 here. F1 of. So here the first input element, whatever you'd like to access here on behalf of name, choose the name of it. Okay, user full name, user underscore full name. Exactly whatever the name you have mentioned there, same name to be provided here also. Then value. So you're trying to access the value of the user full name input element. So which is at F1 form, the form F1. Okay. Then document dot forms of F1 of, yeah. So what is the qualification? User underscore qualify dot value. For drop down also we can use the same value. Next, document dot forms of F1 of user underscore gender dot value. It allows you to choose only one value, right? Because of that is a ready button. So successfully collected the information. Now try console.log of name plus name. Console.log of qualification qual. Console.log of gender gen. So done. Now let me run the program. Form data 1. Something wrong here. Oh, okay. Actually, this should be TD, not input. Okay. TD close. I forget to put the TD here. That would be the problem. And you should provide some value for this button. I thought that was a button tag. If it is a button tag, you should provide like that. Opening tag and closing tag. For input element, there should be no closing tag. So the value is show data. Okay. See the labels of the form, which is well organized. Okay. The starting of every point for text field, for the labels, exactly the same point. Now open the console. So watch out here on the console. So I'm going to provide a name. So I choose engineering, mail, show data. Something wrong here, spelling mistake. Yeah. Console spelling mistake is there. Typo. Now engineering, mail, click on show data. See here. So I have collected the information successfully. Collected the text field, collected information from the drop down, and collected information from the input, radio button. Right? Okay. This time I don't want to show the information on the console. I would like to show it on a table. How can I do that? Means and you can do sorry. Let me create another function to display the information in the form of a table. Show table format. Okay. So I'll not be doing all these things here. Just I'm collecting the form object. The form object. How to get the form object means document dot forms of F1. You know, it just returns the form object. The form object, entire form object will be in the variable form obj. So there was an obj parameter, this function having a parameter. Let it be like this. Now call another function show table format of form of obj. So just sending the form obj object, this object, to the show table format function. So here is a parameter. This parameter stores this argument. This argument was form object, and the same argument was copied to this parameter obj. Now this obj is just a copy of your form object. Now using form object, you can collect multiple things. Variable name, right? So obj dot that one is sorry, obj of user full name dot value. Okay, where qualification user underscore quality for gender. Okay, now just create a table where tab. So I'm going to create a table tag document dot create element, document dot create element of table. I'm going to create a table tag, and if you want to create an attribute also, you can create that. I mean a set attribute, you know. So tab dot set attribute of, I'm going to set an attribute border, comma, the value is going to be 2. So here is the attribute name, then the attribute value. To this table, I'm going to set the attribute. Now you need to have multiple table rows. Multiple rows are there. So where row 1 document dot instead of writing multiple times, that would be better. You can call a function create row. So you can use a table object. So where row is equal to document dot create element. Which one actually would like to create? TR. We'd like to create a table row. Then you need to have columns. For columns, so here two columns would be there. One is the label, another is going to be the information. So better to create new function or we'll continue with the same function. We need to decide this. So if we call the row, that will create columns. Okay. Name value would be better. Yeah. Let us do that in a tricky way. So the column list. So here I'm going to have a different thing called column list, which is going to be like an array. So when I call the function create row with the table object tab, comma, the column list here I'm going to specify this in an array. Or else we'll do one thing, we'll make it as an object literal, this is object literal. It acts like an object. We'll have keys and values. The key is name. Name is a key. Okay. Value is the name variable. This one. The name variable is a value. Name is a key. Comma. Qual. Sorry. This one is also not good. Okay. I think this is okay. So qualification. Qual. Next. Gender. Gender. So which is a literal? This one is a literal. This literal is going to be an argument to the column list. So the list of columns here we are going to specify for this. Create rows. Okay. Make the function as create rows. So var row. So how many rows to be created means it purely depends on number of objects here. So how many objects we have here? 3 objects. This is property. How many properties we have in that object? That many rows we need to create. Okay, this is the property. It starts from the name, first property, second property, then third property. Total 3 properties we have: property name and property value. Similarly, property name and property value. Name again and value. So here the thing is now how to get the property name and property value. So you know how to get the property values, but how to get the property, I mean keys, using JavaScript that you should see. Row is equal to document. Yeah. Here I'm going to write a for each loop for var index or var key in column list. So you know this for loop will iterate for 3 times because there are 3 properties in that object. In the column list object there are column list or row list, I think it's fine. Let us change the name of the variable row list. Here also row list. So var row is equal to document dot create element of here. Good. Then create a column where column is equal to document dot create element of td here. The first td contains key and the second td contains value. Okay, so the first td contains the key and the second td contains value. So this is going to be label. Another td we require here, that is value, and whatever it is we need a text node where label text. For that label text you need to create document dot create text node. So the text node is going to be the key. Okay, another text node which is the row list of key. The row list of key is going to be the value of the text node, or you can access like row list dot key, row list dot key. So this one is also okay because it's an object. Row list is an object, object dot key. Okay, fine. Now we got the label text and value text. Label text and value text. So the label text should be associated with the label. Value text should be associated to the value. So first assign label dot append child. The function is append child of label. Okay. Next, value dot append child of value text. So added the text nodes to the labels and value. So both of the TDs, these are the table data, I mean TD. These are the TD tags. Both of the TD tags contains text nodes now. And these two TD, label and value, should be added to the row. So row dot append child of, first you need to add the label, row dot append child of, then you should add the value. Okay, so finally this row to be added to the row table object, the parent object. This is the parent. Okay, to the table object just append child of row, so that the first row will be inserted. If it go for the second iteration, the second row will be added to the table, then the third row. So that will be like this finally. And anyways we need to have a result here. Div id is equal to user table. There is an id, div, empty div. This is an empty div. To the div you need to add the table. So whatever the table we have here from the show table format, so this tab, whatever you have created, the table tag, the tab, that should be added to the div. Okay, so document dot get element by id of user table. This is the div dot append child. Who is going to be the child to that? the table is going to be the child. And to the table, who are the going to be the childs? Table rows. Okay. And to the table rows, who are going to be the childs? Table data. And for the table data, who are the childs? Text nodes. First text nodes to be added to the table data. Then both of the table data to be added to the row, and the row to be added to the table object. At last, the table object should be displayed at the user table div. So that is our script now. So everything is done. Now let us see how best we can get the result. Refresh. Show data. There was a problem. Failed to execute append child on node. New child element contains parent. At line number 64, we got an error. 64 here. Oh, label dot append child label. No, there should be label text. Show data. Uh, Fortunately undefined. But successfully we got the table result. Might be we got an issue here with this undefined data. Actually, when you're trying to do it like this, that should not be like array format. That should be object format. Okay, like so. The names of the input element should be like an object type, object representation, but not like array representation. Refresh. Still undefined. I think form object. Just a second. Let me check whether the object is working or not. Yeah, the form is working. Object is working here. Only problem here. Let me check it from the function side. Yes, still we are getting the form. So no issues. Oh, oh I think the problem with the values here might be the problem with the values. Okay, I'll do one thing. User object. I'm sending the user object literal here. The literal user object. Everything is fine. Just user object to be checked. Let us check the user object. Console.log of user obj. User object is also working fine. Let us try to display the object with values. Yeah, we're getting the object. So gender, name, qualification, everything is fine. I think the problem would be with the key and row list. Might be. The problem is at the for each loop. Exactly. Okay. Let us check with alert or console entering is fine. Console.log of row list.key. Yeah, undefined. 3 times undefined. Okay. Let us do in the form of array. Refresh. Yes. I hope now it should come. Yes. Okay. So try to access it like array form, not row list.key, but row list of. This is array representation. Okay. Because in the in JavaScript, arrays are nothing but like implicit objects. Not only JavaScript, even the Java also, arrays are acting like an implicit object. Either you can access it like object type or array representation. But depends on situation here. You're trying to access it from for each loop. In the for each loop, object will be considered like array. So I forget here about that. So the object is going to be converted like internal array. So the array representation, by using like a array representation, you need to get the elements. Okay, array of that particular key. Even you can use index also. If you write a full form for loop, like I equal to 0, I less than row list dot length, like that. Okay. Mail. Now forget about console. You can see the result here. So if I change the data, the table would also be getting changed. But it creates a new table here. I don't want it to be happen. Then what should I do? Before creating any table, show table format, or either in the show table format or in the form collect. Before calling the show table format, better do one thing: document dot get element by id of whatever the div here, the div with this one. Actually, this div shows the table, right? If you can inspect this, just try to inspect, then you can understand where exactly the table is going to be displayed. See the div. Under this div, we have two tables. Did you observe that? Table 1, table 2. Under this table, under this div. Just clear that div first. Okay, before creating a new table from the show table format, just clear that user table dot inner HTML is equal to empty. Just empty the inner HTML, whatever the text and whatever the uh, whatever the elements we have. So all those elements will be cleared by using inner HTML as empty. Refresh. Right? See. just the table changes. And pharmacy, show data, just these values will get changed. Okay, so did you understand this? Let me explain the program once again. Coming to the markup, we have a form. This is the UI. So we have the form uh, in table representation, and there was a div here. Actually, this div will show you the output in the form of a table. Right now the div was empty, which will have a table only after clicking on the button show data. When you click on the show data button, then only the collect function will be called, because there was an event appended here, binded here. Okay, so once the collect function called, it will just create a form object to that existing form. It just creates the object to the form. Then it clears the, if there is any previous allocated table is there, already available table is there in the div, it will just clears the table, or any result, any previous result will be cleared. Okay, by this by this fragment, we can clear the previous result. Then calling the show table format immediately and sending the form object as an argument to that function. Already in that form we have some input elements, 3 input elements. Okay, so what is the local object here? Obj. So that obj is the form object. So form object dot input element name of the input element, and value. Again form object dot input element name, then value. So collecting all the form data from these 3. Next, here we're just creating user object, which is an object literal. Earlier we have discussed about this, about objects. Still, if you have any questions, just refer to the video objects, user JavaScript objects. So creating 3 properties: name, qualification, gender. Then create element. What I'm creating? A table. I'm creating a table, setting an attribute border 2 to the table. Now a table will be created with a border 2 with the 2. Then it calls another function create rows. Where is the create rows? Here is the create rows function. You know, the create rows function takes 2 parameters. One is the table object, another is user object. So the table object is this one. Whatever the table you are creating, newly creating table object will be here. Then user object, the user object will contain some rows. Okay, it contains rows. The row list is nothing but this one, the user object. User object contains properties, some set of properties. Total 3 properties are there in the user object. All those properties will be stored into the row list. Then for each loop I have created, you know, the key stores the keys, and the row list of key returns the value in that key. Okay. Now I should create row, because the create rows function will create all the rows. So when if we get back to the output, how many rows we have here? 3 rows, because the length of that row list is 3. This loop will iterate for 3 times, so that 3 rows will be created. Every time a new row will be created for you. That's why the create element of tr should be inside of for loop, because every time the row iterates, the for loop iterates, a row will be created along with the 2 table data. I mean 2 columns. So how many columns here we have? How many TDs we have? 2 TDs in each row. See, first TD, second TD. The first TD contains the label, and second TD contains a value, two columns. For two columns, for the sake of two columns, I'm creating two table data here. Okay, and every table data, I mean every column should contain a text, isn't it? See, there is a name and value, name and value. So this is a label name and label qualification, value Veena and value B form, right? Text node of key, next text node of row list of key. You know the key returns the label and row list of key returns the value. So creating labels for the column 1 as well as for the column 2. The column 1 is a label, column 2 contains a value. So created the text node successfully. After creating the text nodes, add to that label what you're adding. Label means TD. To the TD actually, to the TD label, we are appending text. Next step. To the value, TD, you are going to add the text, value text. Then after adding the text nodes to the both of the columns, you need to add both of the column, label column and value column to the row. See, the row contains row dot append chain of label and row dot append chain of value. Label and where the label and value both are the columns. Both of these columns are added to the row, newly created row. Then table object dot append chain of row. What does it mean? The table object already we have the parent object what we have created. So while calling the create rows function, tab is there. The tab is nothing but the table object. Do you see that? This one. This is the table object. So to the create rows function, this would be the argument. That argument will be copied to the parameter tab object. So finally, all those rows, whatever the how many rows you are going to create, all those rows to be added to the tab object. That's it. So every time a row will be created, labels will be created, text nodes will be created, adding the text nodes to the labels, then adding the columns to the rows, and adding the row to the table object. So these things will be happen every time the for loop iterates. Every time the for loop will have a loop, every time when it is going to have a loop, these things will be happened every time. Okay. Then finally, you are able to see the output. So after calling the create rows function, the table will be prepared now. The table contains a set of rows and columns. So whatever the stuff prepared by the create rows function, all the stuff will be added to the table object. The table object now to be added to the user table element. What is the user table element? The user table element is the div. That is a div. So this is what happening. So this is the result. Okay. Clear? Any doubts? Any doubts or questions?